Her triumphs. I took a group of women that didn't believe in themselves, and I just believed in them. Her trials.
I never wanted to go to practice. I was losing a ton of weight.
Her story.
I just put my faith in God and just trusted the system.
Her why.
I want people to see what I did and say, oh, that's so awesome. I'm going to be better than that. That would be how I hope that this journey ends.
This is Her Why, where we tell the stories from BYU women's sports. Here is your host, Lauren McLean.
We're so glad you've joined us for Her Why, where we celebrate the women who make BYU sports great. Joining us now is sophomore for the BYU women's soccer team, Avery Frischknecht. Thank you so much for being here with me, Avery.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
We're excited to have you, and I'm excited that I know your mom's side of the family. Mm-hmm. So this will be fun. This will be really fun. BYU women's soccer had a pretty good fall season. You made it to the NCAA tournament, but you were eliminated in the first round. How do you feel about the way the team performed last fall?
Honestly, I think the word that sums up last season was progress. We lost a lot of seniors the year before, and this last year, we started off slow, and then by the end of the year, we gained momentum, and I feel like by the end of the season, I think we were playing really well, and obviously, we didn't end the way we wanted to, but the progress that we had in that season was unreal, and it was fun to see everyone grow into a role and come out into their own, if that makes sense.
It does. What would you say were some of the biggest moments of the season for you personally?
For my development? That's a good question. I would say after that first exhibition game against UVU, I remember going into that game and I was feeling super, super nervous because this was the first time I'd ever really played and started before. And I feel like after I kind of got that game underneath my belt, I was like, okay, I can do this. Like, I'm ready for this. And then obviously there were some games along the way that I felt really good, like the UCLA game. I was like, okay, I'm feeling good. And then, I don't know, I just feel like my confidence kind of grew over time, if that makes sense. There wasn't like one specific moment where I was like, okay, I'm great, Yeah. But it was the slow, steady progress of the season that helped me gain the confidence that I needed.
Well, you had 4 fantastic goals, including one off your stomach against, was it Arizona State?
Yes.
Take me through exactly what happened there.
Honestly, I don't even really know what happened. I went up for a corner kick, and it was a great service. I can't even remember who played it in. And I just was like, oh, I'm just going to run up and see what happens. And it hit off my stomach. And I was like, that's kind of weird. And then I saw the ball bounce, and then it bounced over the line. And I was like, oh, my gosh, what a way to score my first goal. But I was so excited. And that's just a dream that came true to me that night. So nothing crazy, but
and you did it in a creative way. Very creative. Memorable way. What was your goal, or your favorite goal of the 4? Do you have a favorite?
Ooh, I would say probably the Texas Tech game. That was a fun one. I mean, Texas Tech is a great program, and it was a good game. And then in the last 10 seconds, Lucy Kessler played a beautiful ball in, and I was running down as fast as I could to get in the box. And I think that's one of the reasons that no one was marking me, is because it was so last minute. And just played a great ball in, and I found it off the top of my head, and it was such a fun win. So
that's got to be one of the greatest feelings that most of us will never experience in our life, in a big-time collegiate game in front of a lot of fans. What's that feeling like when you see the ball going into the goal?
There's nothing like it, honestly. Like, it just brings me so much happiness and just gratitude that I get to do what I love. And seeing the hard work pay off is a feeling like none other.
You were named Big 12 Co-Defensive Player of the Week. What does that recognition mean to you as a forward, someone who's mainly responsible for scoring?
It meant a lot. So growing up, I played forward my whole life. And then when I got to BYU, Jen told me they wanted to play me at defense. And I was like, huh? But so I've had to come a long ways, and I've had to work really hard, and having that award, which I do not deserve at all, but it was pretty amazing, and it felt good to have my hard work be recognized, if that makes sense. But obviously I couldn't have done it without any of my teammates or my coaches pushing me along the way.
Yeah, that's got to be a shock when you've been playing one position your entire life, and then they're like, you're going to be doing something completely different.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work. and you're doing fantastic. What do you love most about playing at South Field in front of BYU's fans?
Honestly, I just love the environment. Southfield brings the best environment. Cougar Nation always shows up strong, and it's fun, and the music's blaring, and I get to hang out with my teammates, and we're dancing and getting ready for the game. And then once the whistle blows, we lock in, and honestly, I don't hear anything after that. You just focus on the game, and then after the game's over, my favorite part of the night is going and high-fiving everyone because I get to see all the amazing people that come out. But playing at Southfield is amazing. Nothing like it.
It's incredible to me how many fans that you guys bring out. And it makes sense. It's such an entertaining, amazing product that you guys put out, but it's mind-blowing. You know, every year you're breaking records, and it's such a cool place.
It is.
So you have a lot of freshmen coming in this year. What are some of the fresh faces we should look out for this season?
Ooh, honestly, they've all done really well this spring. A lot of them graduated early. I think, honestly, all of them are people to look out for. They each have their own skills, which come together for our team for the good. And I think you'll be seeing Sophie, I can't even remember her last name, but Sophie scoring a lot of goals, and Afton holding down the midfield, and Mia scoring with her head. And Kate playing awesome defense. Like, there's so many awesome girls, and I'm just naming a couple, but that are going to help our program be amazing, even more amazing than what it already has been. So
I feel like Jen Rockwood always brings in some really good freshmen, but let's talk about some of the veterans that are here. We know Ellie Walbrook just came back from her ACL surgery. Which veterans are you looking at right now that you feel like you look up to and others do as well?
I mean, obviously Ellie Walbrook is a great player, and we missed her a lot last season. I think she would have helped us put the ball in the back of the net a couple more times last year, but she's a leader on and off the field. She's fun, and I'm excited to watch her do her thing and get to play with her. And then obviously we have Izzy Stratton and Cameron Jorgensen coming back from missions, which will be awesome. And they were really great players, key players before they left on their mission. Mackenzie Vance, she's been looking awesome. Hallie Dixon, Ella Rustand. Honestly, our team is just going to be good, and I'm excited to see the progress that we'll make throughout this whole year. I don't know if I can just say a couple of names because, honestly, everyone has been looking really good and working really hard. So
awesome. What's something about your game that you feel like you've tried really hard to work on?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think the one thing that I've been really trying to work on is my 1v1 defending. I mean, growing up, I was always going at the defender instead of defending. And so that's something that I've been trying to work on. And then another thing that I've been trying to work on is just being composed. I think it's really critical as a soccer player and even as a person that in stressful situations, you trust your instincts and you just do what you know how to and trust that you know that the things that you do will work out for the good, if that makes sense.
It does. And now that you've played multiple positions, what's the one position you're like that you love the most?
Ooh, I think the one that I love the most right now is center back, and that's just because I get to play it. And I played center forward my whole life, and I love scoring, and I love being into the attack, but I think right now my favorite is center back just because I get to see the whole field and I get to be that calming voice and just enjoy it all, if that makes sense.
Yes. You have a great attitude. I love it.
Thank you.
You're like, I just want to be on the field.
Exactly.
Just let me play. What are you hoping to accomplish this coming season as a team?
We have really high expectations this next year as a team, and I honestly think that we can get there. Obviously, we want to win the Big 12. We've been close for the past 2 years, and we've done really well in the past 2 years. But we're not satisfied. We want to win that Big 12, and then the next thing is we want to win a Natty. We're ready for that, and I think with the intel that we have this year, I think that's a very possible hope, and I think it's pretty realistic. So I'm super excited.
Well, it's been within reach a number of times. It's right there, right? I think that's incredible. What about individually? What do you want to add to your game?
I just want to go out there and keep doing what I love and keep playing and doing my best. And obviously I never want to settle. And I hope that I can keep putting the ball in the back of the net and keep being a good defender and just playing the way that I know how and enjoying it all, because it really is a gift to play. And I think that sometimes people forget that, but I just want to go out there and be my best. And it's not about the awards for me. It's just going out and doing what I love with the people that I love.
We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, Avery tells us about overcoming some health challenges and her decision to play at BYU. This is her why. What's up, everyone? Lauren McLean here to talk to you about another great BYU radio podcast, Big Stories. Host Cleon Wall has traveled around the Big 12 for a second straight season to find more inspiring stories. You'll hear from former Kansas State wide receiver Landry Weber, who gave up his final year of eligibility to follow a call from God. And then there is Maddie McLaughlin, who after a 3-year battle with Lyme disease, played volleyball for Arizona State and is now playing pro volleyball. And then there is Baylor graduate Jimmy Dorrell, who founded Church Under the Bridge to serve the homeless in Waco, Texas. All these great stories and more on Big Stories. So check out Big Stories on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Welcome back to Her Why. I'm Lauren McLean here with BYU Soccer's Avery Frischknecht. All right, your last name is a long one. How often do people mispronounce your name?
All the time. Every time someone says my last name, it's usually a variation of what it should be. So,
what are some of the things people say?
I've been called fruit snacks. I've been called Frischknecht. So many weird ones. I'm not sure how they came up with it, but I appreciate them trying.
Thank you for trying to pronounce my name.
Exactly.
Even though it's horribly wrong. All right, let's go back to when you were a little girl growing up in Mapleton, Utah. You weren't allowed to play sports until you were 7 because of migraines that affected your neurological function. Is that right? Mm-hmm. What exactly did that look like for you as a kid?
It honestly was really hard. So when I was about a year old, my parents noticed that my eyes would roll into the back of my head. So they were nervous that I had some sort of like epilepsy or something like that. So my grandpa is a cardiologist, and he pulled some strings and got me up into primary children's, and they found out that I had migraines. And I would get a migraine. They would cycle every 3 weeks. And so every 3 weeks I would get a migraine. And I also have different kind of triggers, like if I eat too much sugar, if I don't get enough sleep, and if I'm not hydrated enough, then migraines can come on a little bit faster. But growing up, my parents worried about me a lot because I didn't have the best coordination, because my balance was so affected by those migraines that I couldn't walk in a straight line, and that it was bad. But when I was 7 years old, I was begging my parents to let me play sports, and they put me into soccer. And as soon as I went out onto that field, I knew that I loved it, and I never wanted to be without it. And so, and maybe my love for soccer was part of the reason that I was able to figure out a way to battle through my migraines, because it helped me find some, like a release of joy, if that makes sense, knowing that I could do it. But yeah.
So what did the doctor say to that? Was it sort of up to your parents? Like, if she can handle this pain, then she can do it. What was that like?
Yeah, it was just up to my parents. When I was growing up, they said that they could give me some sort of migraine medicine, but it would stunt my growth. And so my parents were like, we don't want her to, like, I've never taken any medicine for my migraines. I have a little bit in the past couple of years to see if it's helped, but usually when they come on, and I can't do anything about them. But they said it was kind of up to my parents and how they were feeling about how I was doing personally. But around 7 years old is when my parents were like, okay, let's just try it out and see how it goes. So
how did playing soccer affect your migraines at all once you started playing?
Obviously they still came, but I mean, they didn't like make them worse or make them any better, but I felt like because I had a release of something that I loved, that it was okay. And I found joy in something. And even though that was really hard in my life at that point, I still had so much to be grateful for and so much to be happy for, because there were migraines and soccer aren't everything, but it was a good release for me to get out and do something that I loved.
Did you ever have to miss a practice or a game or anything because you had migraines?
Yeah, so I actually got to the point where I could start playing in games, even with migraines. And obviously, I probably didn't play very well, but I tried. And there were a couple of practices. When I get migraines, my eyes get super light sensitive. So I would go to practice with sunglasses on, and I'd go practice with sunglasses on. And every time I would, my teammates would be like, "Oh, Avery's got a migraine." And so I just wear like these huge frames that would cover my eyes, and then I would just go and play. So
was it a crazy pain too, though?
Yeah, it does really hurt, and I get super nauseous. But I feel like when I have something distracting me, it kind of distracts me from the pain, if that makes sense.
So without any medication at all, you mentioned you need to be hydrated, you need to have enough sleep. What are some of the other ways you and your parents figured out that you could help manage your migraines a little bit?
Yeah, that's a good question. So obviously, I tried to, when I was little, try to limit myself to 1 or 2 treats a day, because if I ate any more than that, then I could feel a migraine coming on. And then I always have a water bottle with me because I always need to be sipping water. So when I was little, my parents would give me a water bottle. I'm sure I lost it all the time, but I would bring that around with me. And then this is kind of embarrassing, but up until my senior year of high school, I would always be in bed by 9:30. Because if I didn't get enough sleep, then I'd wake up the next morning with a migraine. And then when I was little, my parents bought me cute little sunglasses, and I'd wear them around everywhere. So
Going to bed at 9:30 is not embarrassing. That's everyday life for me. No,
hey,
but weird as a high school girl, right? Probably felt weird for you, but I'm curious how those migraines, because you're playing at some of the highest level of soccer right now, like high intensity. You picked one of the most intense sports physically that you can play, right?
Yeah.
So how does it affect you now in your life?
Honestly, my migraines have gotten a lot better. I've been able to, since we've come up with some of these things, I've been able to kind of mitigate all of the symptoms and stuff. So I drink a lot of water now, and I drink a lot of sodium, so the water stays in my system, and I still try to limit myself to 1 treat a day. And then I don't go to bed at 9:30 anymore, but I do go to bed earlier. And on game days and stuff, I'll try to take a nap so my body's just kind of fresh. And then, because after games, you're pretty wired, so I try to take a nap. And then so after games, I can just kind of relax and then still get the amount of sleep that I need. But I've been able to find some medicines now that I'm not growing anymore.
Yeah.
Some medicines that I can kind of take when I do feel them coming on, and it kind of lessens the pain a little bit. So I'm really grateful for the trainers, Diana and Carolyn, that have helped me come up with some of those solutions.
They're the best.
They are the best.
I think that is so inspiring that it's something that you could have easily said, I can't play, or, I can't do A, B, C, D because of these migraines. And yet you did it. You're doing a lot of things that maybe no one expected you to do. So what advice would you give other young athletes who may be dealing with similar neurological challenges?
That is a good question. I would just say keep trying, keep fighting, find something that works for you and stick with it. Make it your own and own it, and just do your best. And no one will fault you for trying your best.
Well, you had an incredible high school and club career. You've talked about before how you've always wanted to play at BYU. What was your recruitment like?
I would say mine's pretty standard. I grew up in Utah, so it was really easy for the coaches to come and watch me play. I was a freshman when I committed, and that year they passed a new rule that said that you can't commit until, I think it's June 15th of your sophomore year. So I was talking to a whole bunch of schools. I was going to the BYU camps. And then Jen just gave me a phone call one day and offered me, and I was like, yes. I don't even care. Just yes, I want to be here. And so I know some girls have a little bit more of an elaborate committing story, but mine, it just always felt right to me. And I always knew that it was a possibility for me. And I'm so grateful for Jen giving me that opportunity to be here, because it really is the best place to be.
What was it about BYU that made you, just since you were a little girl, really want to play here?
I have always been a BYU fan. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, so obviously the culture is big to me, and my parents are big BYU fans. My grandpa still won't wear red to this day. So I just have...
Good man.
Yeah, exactly. I just have always wanted to be at BYU. I love the members here. I love that I get to take religion courses and learn more about our Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ, and I know that when I play, I'm playing for something more than just soccer. I'm playing for my Heavenly Father and my Savior, Jesus Christ.
Your dad played football at Weber State, and your sister played soccer at Snow College. How did their experiences in college sports influence you as you were growing up?
All for the good, honestly. My dad loved his time at Weber State. And then he actually transferred up here to BYU where he met my mom, but he knew how much of a grind being a collegiate athlete is. And then watching my sister play at Snow College, it was so fun to watch her, and she's an amazing player. But I feel like I kind of knew what I needed to do when I got into BYU. I needed to be structured. I needed to be on top of my grades, but honestly, like, also just to enjoy it, because this is such a small time in our lives. So it might be a lot right now, but it honestly is one of the biggest blessings, and I need to be grateful and just have so much joy to be here, if that makes sense.
Was that the advice that they gave you from their own experience?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You got injured during your sophomore year of high school, which I'm sure was devastating. You just committed to BYU, right? Mm-hmm. What happened there?
So I had committed to BYU a week before, and so I was on top of the world, and I was playing up, I can't even remember who I was playing, but we were up in Salt Lake. The grass was super long. It was a terrible field, and I was just dribbling down the sideline, and some girl was on me, and she hit me from behind, and my knee hyperextended, and I heard a pop. And at that moment, I just knew. And my sister had actually torn her ACL, I think 5 months prior to when I tore mine. So based on what she had told me, I was like, it's gone. It's gone. And so I remember just sitting there, and I just remember being so devastated. And my parents took me home. We got an MRI, and I tore my ACL. And it was probably one of the darkest times in my life. Sorry, I still get emotional talking about it, but I learned so many good lessons by tearing my ACL. And I honestly, that was so hard, but I wouldn't change it for the world, because it's helped me become who I am today, not only as a player, but as a person.
So what lessons were those that you learned and that obviously impacted you so much in your life?
Yeah, that you can have joy in any circumstance. It was so hard. I couldn't run for 4 months. I couldn't do anything. And from being a really active soccer player and then having to sit on the couch all day was really hard for me. And I remember my mom just talking to me, and she's like, Avery, you don't have to be happy, or you don't have to feel grateful for the circumstance you're in, but you need to see all the things that God's doing in your life, even in this moment. And at that moment in my life, I was like, you're right. I can't control what happened to me, but I can control my attitude. And one of the other lessons that I learned is empathy. You don't really know what someone's going through until you've gone through it yourself. And so I've had a ton of teammates throughout my life that have torn their ACLs, and I feel like I'm able to comfort them because I know exactly what they're going through and how hard it is.
Well, so much of your identity, too, is tied up in what you do. It's not who you are, but it's what you do, right? In soccer. So that's difficult. And you were injured again your senior year of high school. Was it the same injury?
No. So I tore my meniscus my senior year of high school. So it was a little bit different, but it wasn't quite as bad. So I was able to graduate early still and then go to BYU and start playing. But it definitely was hard, but not as hard as my ACL, because I knew that it was a better outcome, if that makes sense.
And then first thing that happens when you get to BYU, you get injured. Is that right?
Yeah. So
oh my gosh.
I graduated early. I graduated in January of 2022, and I went and played with the team. And then 4 days into fall camp, I got hit from behind, And I just felt my whole knee shift. And it was the exact same knee that I tore my ACL on and I struggled with in my senior year of high school. And I knew it wasn't my ACL, but I knew something was up. I knew something was wrong. And I remember calling my mom. I was pretty hysterical at that point because I knew something was wrong. So we got an MRI. We went in. They told me that I had torn my meniscus. And I was like, okay, like I can handle that. And so they're like, why don't you just keep trying to play on it for the next month or two and see if it gets better? And so I kept playing on it. It kept swelling up, kept hurting. I was like, this isn't right. Like something is wrong. And so Carolyn Billings, who was our athletic trainer at the time, she's my favorite person of all time. She's like, let's just get you a scope. Let's see how it goes. So I went and got a scope. And when they went in, they noticed that part of my meniscus had died and that part of my bone was disintegrating. And so I came out of that surgery just thinking they were going to kind of clip my meniscus. And then they told me all the other things. And so if I wouldn't have gotten my second surgery, which I got in November of that year, I probably would have had to get a knee replacement around like 25 or 30. So I had another surgery. It was a crazy surgery. I had to wait for a donor. They had to have like the exact same blood type, bone type, all that kind of stuff. And what they did is they took part of the bone of the donor that had meniscus attached on it and cut off that disintegrating bone from my knee and plugged it into my knee. So now I have a new bone and new meniscus graft in my knee.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So what was that recovery like?
It was very similar to an ACL. It was about 9 months after I had that surgery, but after I had my scope and from when I first got hurt, it was about almost a year too.
Oh my goodness. Well, that season was the season BYU went to the Sweet 16, lost to North Carolina, and you had to watch from the sideline.
Yeah.
Were you ever like, God, how many lessons do I have to learn? What were you feeling during that time?
I was really discouraged. When they were at the Sweet 16, I think, maybe 3 days post-op. So I didn't even get to go to North Carolina and watch them play. But I remember my mom took me to our local rec center and I was lifting some arm weights and I was watching the game and just crying. But I knew that it would all work for my good, and it's a lot easier to look back on it now and appreciate the trials that I've been through because I've grown so much as a person. But it was really hard in that moment. But I knew that God had a greater plan for me and I just had to trust him and just keep moving forward.
It always passes.
It
right?
does.
In your sophomore season, you played in 12 matches, and last season, you didn't just start every game, you played every single minute of every game.
Yeah.
That's an incredible way to come from that surgery that you had. How did that feel knowing that you were such an asset to the team and that your body felt good enough to do it?
Honestly, it meant everything to me. The word that I always just go back to is just gratitude, because it really is such a gift to play. And from being injured so many times, and I'm not the only one that has, but it really is a gift to put on your cleats and go out on the field and do what you love. And so more than anything, I'm just grateful, and I'm grateful for the coaches who believe in me and who believe that I can be on the field for that long. And I'm grateful for my body that it was able to sustain all the pressures of playing soccer. And I'm grateful for Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ allowing me to do what I love and helping me come back from all these devastating injuries. And obviously my family too. My parents have been amazing.
And you're dealing with a meniscus tear right now. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. I tore my meniscus about 3 weeks ago, and then I had surgery on this past Tuesday, so 3 days ago. So
meniscus is nothing for you, though.
No,
you're like, I got
it's
this.
just normal, I guess.
You mentioned in an interview with Gregor Bell that you listen to the same song before every single match. I love this because I love pregame rituals. I think they're so fun. With peanut butter and banana. Is that right? So give me the details on that.
I'm a very superstitious person. I always eat a G2G bar, which they're my favorite, and a banana and peanut butter before every game because I have a very sensitive stomach, so I have to keep it pretty bland. But I always eat that before a game. I always have the same hairstyle. I listen to the same songs. I try to do everything in my power before a game so I'm in the right headspace for a game.
Yeah, what songs do you listen to?
You're going to laugh, but I listen to a lot of like Disney songs. I'm a big Disney girl. I listen to, my favorite song is All Back by, Chris Brown.
Okay.
And that's the one I listen to before every game. And then, yeah.
And are we talking crunchy, peanut butter, creamy?
I'm a creamy kind of girl.
Okay. I'm right there with you. I love that. You've played against some of the best teams in the country now. Mm-hmm. What's the toughest team do you feel like you've faced so far?
Oof, that is a great question. UCLA was pretty dang awesome. I thought they were a really good team. That was a really tough game, and it was one of our first games as a new team, but I thought that we handled them very well. In conference, TCU is always good. TCU is a very good team, very well coached, very good players, and it's always a battle when we play them. And then, honestly, like, one of the toughest teams to play against is my own team. I always get so much better when we play against each other in practice, and I think that's how we prepare ourselves to play well in hard games.
That's awesome. Seriously incredible athletes. All right, my last question for you is you've been through so much in your young life on and off the field. When you look back, how would you describe what your why is? Like, why do you do this?
That is a great question. I would just say that I do that. I play for that little girl who wasn't able to play sports until she was 7. And I do it for her because she wanted it so badly. And she would do anything to play that sport. And I still feel the same way. And even though I've been through so much in my 14 years of playing soccer, I wouldn't have traded it for the world. I've become the person who I am today through this sport and through the lessons that I have learned in this sport. But I do it for that little girl because she couldn't do it for herself for a while.
I'm here with BYU women's soccer center back Avery Frischknecht. Avery, thank you so much for taking the time. I'm wishing you a quick recovery, and I can't wait to watch you this coming season.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks to Annie Robinson and Sydney Simpson for producing this episode with senior producer Cleon Wall. Her Why is a production of BYU Radio.